Hi and welcome to a weekly outlook. This is Kim speaking on Monday the 16th of April. So looking at the currencies as ever, but well, I'll start off with the euro dollar, but I'm going to actually just run through the fundamentals data that's coming out this week and key numbers that are coming out then. So there's not that many to look at. I'm just going to drag this down a little bit, this chart, if I can. Still keeping it in view of the recording. There we go. So key things I'm looking at today at the moment is the core retail sales coming out at 1:30 p.m. UK time, so we're looking for that. Speaker at 6:15, I'll be gone by then. Aussie dollar, if you're trading the Aussie dollar, maybe tomorrow early morning you've got the monetary policy minutes out there. Again, we do sometimes get a bit of a surprise by some of these numbers these days because not everything is mentioned, although so much is. More importantly, though, for us trading during our normal session here is the average earnings, the employment data coming out. Average earnings is the big number we're looking to on Tuesday there. Normally on a Wednesday, employment data, so I don't know what's going on here. But anyway, it's come out on a Tuesday. So that's the big thing that we'll be watching for. We had a slight tick up on inflation from 2.8 to up to 2.8 last time. It's expected to come in at 3% this time. We'll see what happens. Any fall short of that, if it falls short of that, we'll see the pound selling. But there is obviously this expectation, and we're seeing the buying of the pound at the moment. Maybe looking forward to these numbers tomorrow. Okay, beyond that, we've got then carrying on through into Tuesday. Really nothing significant in terms of big numbers coming out. There's sorry for the Canadians there, but they're not significant numbers. They're manufacturing sales, barely do anything, bit of volatility, and aside of that, there's nothing else really I'm interested in there. I am interested in, of course, inflation on Wednesday, big number, and the key thing with this inflation is how it sits with the employment inflation or wage inflation. Expected to come in at 2.7. Anything less could see the pound selling again. Anything more could see it pushing up even further. So key figure for Wednesday morning, running through the day then. We've got the European final CPI. It's all the subsets of data is already out on that, so I don't expect that to move too much, but it may create a bit of volatility. But the flash figures that come out earlier tend to move things. Then we have got some Canadian data on Wednesday. We've got the Bank of Canada monetary policy report, rate statement, etc. So this is quite key, and may get some key data through that at 3 on Wednesday. Aside of that, I'm not really too interested in stuff at 8. Speakers at 8 o'clock, can't do anything, not going to be trading them. Running into Thursday, Australian employment report, that often gives quite a big kicker. If you're trading the Aussie dollar, that can give you quite a shove there. And then at 9:30 on Thursday, we've got UK retail sales, another potential kicker for the UK. Now, expected to come in at minus 0.5. If this was to pitch up in anything positive, boy, will we see the pound run, I reckon. But it's expected to become quite negative there. So, well, anything more negative than that, expect a bit more, again, a rollover. Plenty of FOMC speakers, MPC speakers going on through the afternoon there. Okay, regulation, etc. They may create some volatility through the afternoon into the evening, but not too fussed with those. And then Friday we've got the Canadian inflation data. So and I should point out at 12:30 we've got the German Buber President Weidmann speaking. He can again create, what's he talking about, due to participate in a press conference at the International Monetary. Okay, it certainly can create some volatility when he speaks, not as much as he used to, but still can. And as I said, at 1:30 on Friday then we've got the Canadian inflation and retail sales, so 2 numbers coming out, same there, may muddy the waters, but again, some potential volatility for the Canadian dollar. So that's the fundamentals looking forward. Looking at the currencies themselves, actually, it's just before I do that, I'm just going to run through the sentiment, big picture sentiment. I'm looking at the dealer sentiment here. dealer sentiment is always massively opposite to what the market's doing. So these are the guys that are actually selling the options or futures, dealing in the futures. They're getting more negative, which is suggesting a more bullish tone with asset managers, maybe, and the leveraged hedge funds, etc. They're pushing up, so there's more of a long tone coming in on the euro there. So there is potential fundamental from a technical point of view that we may see that run through these markets there after stalling a little bit. Well, it's interesting to see if we can actually start breaking out. It's struggling on this weekly basis. We've been so many weeks, and there's little, as I said, fundamentally to move us, but technically perhaps we may just get some price action going in there. Anything this week that's sort of negative dollar may just get that to euro pushing in. If it starts breaking through these areas, it may just get a bit more of a kicker as it runs on, as it triggers more and more interest running towards at least that weekly 500. Sorry. Daily perspective, just looking at it, I mean, just sums it all up. It near enough every day it gets back to, or every couple of days it gets back to its monthly pivot. Struggling to see clear trend at the moment either way. So it is it's not the ideal swing trade at the moment. Let's have a look at the pound. Let's start off with the big picture and start off just looking at sentiment on the pound. Now, I am going to run through a separate video on the COT analysis and put it on our new website in the very near future. Just to explain, because the COT analysis we was once using, it's disappeared, it's not been updated. I've gone back to this analysis, and it's so much more in this analysis, so I'm liking this. Okay, so going a bit backwards here, but start looking at what the dealers are doing. They should be short, getting bigger short. Yep, there you go. The short sides are on their side are getting more and more, so that means there's more long positions out there. The pensions, etc. Well, they're remaining on their whole short sort of picture, but the guys that we really look at are the bigger traders that are out there are actually pushing the long positions, and the net long positions there are continuing to push upwards there. So a bullish outlook, which is probably no surprise looking at this chart. What we're seeing at the moment, as the weekly chart has just come back a step into the monthly chart. Is there anything we're looking at? Yes, of course, it's that monthly 50. I've talked about it this morning in our trading room. That could well draw us as we go through the rest of this month. You see the big weekly 500 sitting above there as well, so there's a potential draw. Short term or intermediate term, day trading turn, we are kicking in towards those prior highs there, the previous highs that we've seen, the year highs at on the 25th of January. So we're pushing up towards that at the moment. We had quite a sell-off on Friday. It didn't hold on to its gains. It'll be interesting to see what it does today with US news coming out later. It's got a weekly pivot below, which could cause a drawdown at some point. I was expecting that more this morning, but as last week, it just went off and it's gone off again at the moment. So potential to push up to those prior highs, maybe further. Beyond that sort of state of affairs, well, looking at maybe the monthly R2, it's not so common to be seeing that happening, or maybe even the midi in between there if it starts pushing up. If there's enough momentum pushing on the upside, who knows where this could run from here. One thing's for sure, it will be taking out stop orders, I'm sure, people that are trying to get short early. Right, okay, that's the pound. Let's have a look at the dollar yen. Now, the dollar yen's been plagued with contracts, options, etc. Just holding it in a very, very tight range. So we'll look at the sentiment on this. So it shows a dollar, it's the yen dollar on here. So the yen on the strongest. Let's look at the dealer side first. So the dealers, they're getting short, so they're getting stronger towards the yen. So we should see the yen be coming down effectively against the dollar here, or the the dollar coming down against the yen, I should say, is inverted in what we're looking at here. So asset managers still taking, okay, they're still on a bullish view, and the hedge funds still bullish, slowing down a little bit their bullish sort of sentiment maybe. So getting a bit of a roll over here, but nothing significant, no significant changes in sentiment there. But so it is a belief then it's still got some strength most into this. We're just seeing it into our upper bands on the weeklies. Let's just flick back to the monthly first and see if there's anything I should be noticing there. Well, there has been last month the support of the 200. That's okay. It's last month, and see how we're going through on this weekly basis. As I said, but the resistance may be into its upper band at the moment. Still has its weekly 21 ahead, quite a key level, as I pointed out last week. It may still push up towards that. Momentum is looking like it's changing a positive. It may help that, but it's come down to the dailies. And the dailies, I've got a bit of divergence across the tops there on some, I mean more so, actually it's on the shorter time frames here. It's the RSI is a bit of a diverged sort of move, but it never really got towards the overbought signal, so that could just wear itself off there. So the potential there, well, break of this trend line, I'd be a bit more bearish on the US dollar against it. Would be looking the other side, but at the moment it's just holding up in the short term, at least, or intermediate term, on the more positive side of that trend. So, as I say, sentiment is really erring towards the downside here, but the bigger sentiment, but it's not getting any stronger. If anything, it's softening maybe, so that could see allow the move up. Okay, Aussie dollar. What a beaut. Let's come out from the weeklies. Let's have a look at the sentiment. So, Aussie dollar. Let's look at the sort of big picture from the dealer point of view. What's happening? So look, it's getting more bullish Aussie. It's been stepping up on the sort of bear effect. Sorry, I'll go back on that. This dealer movement of the more longs coming through is a more of a bearish side. They're taking the other side of the trade, so the more bullish it is here, the more potential bearish it could roll over. Now I'm looking at the asset manager, and well, they're sitting completely opposite side to that view. They're negative, bearish, and look here, we're seeing the longs disappearing here, and the shorts, well, the shorts just edged back a bit as well. So overall position, net position is not changing massively, but it's erring on the side of the downside overall. Now, from a weekly perspective, where we just run back into the upper bands there, let's just come out to the monthly technically. So technically, still in that monthly choppy sort of pattern. It's still bouncing off that support from the prior highs there as it's sloping down. So it's got support from that perspective. Not really telling us too much. It's so choppy on the weeklies. Obviously, showing still got the higher lows running through on this weekly picture. So the strength could still continue. But let's come down now to the daily picture here. In fact, I need a daily chart, would be good. There we go, and I want to look at the pivots. And we have got the weekly pivot below us, which may draw things down here. Earlier part of the week, it may still draw us down. We've had a push up. We've seen softening of the dollar at the moment, which has seen the other markets move up. Now the Aussie could, it's tested its daily 200, had the reaction, quite bearish look on Friday there. It closed quite bearish looking. As the pound did, but as the pound has, it's pushed up at the moment this morning. We may just see it continue up and break the other upside there. But as I said, the sentiment is erring that on that more bearish side maybe. So we'll see how we go. But it's nothing really extreme either way. Right, and finally the Canadian dollar. Let's come out of have a look at the monthly, and of course let's have a look at sentiment on the Canadian dollar. Now this is inverted, of course, so the more sell signals we're seeing on the dealer side, it is the more bullish the market. Now it's flat here, isn't it? It's flat on the weekly basis of the overall net position there. It's not really moving too much. The pension funds, etc., slightly erring more bullish. The hedge funds marginally less bearish, but not really showing too much. It's holding, as I say, holding flat across all of these. So not really helping us too much there, as I say, relatively flat view of things. Now, where are we monthly wise? Well, we're still selling, have been selling off. It's a bit early to see what's going to happen there. We've got still half a month to go, although it's flying rather quickly. Weekly perspective, we did manage to break through that 200 through a hell of a lot of mess of moving averages on the weekly picture. So it broke through all those weekly 21s, etc. bands. It's put an expansive type of move to the downside at the moment. Momentum looks like it could easily drop over there. So it's pushing at the moment, looking all to the downside. It's below its downtrend here on the dailies, lower highs, lower lows. It's got a weekly pivot up, which might, if price could pitch back to that, would may give a good sell signal along with that daily 8 if it gets up there early enough. So, but at the moment, well, still looking like it could pitch over. Now, if it does run to the lows there is a reasonable chance it could be diverging back into those lows, but I just got to look at oil here as well on the bigger, I'll say the bigger picture, but just look at what's happening with oil. Sold off a little bit this morning, but still pitching around those highs area over the 67, around about $67. Again, it's got the potential to roll back to its weekly pivot, which could see the Canadian dollar pushing up a bit towards its weekly pivot. So the two, if they remain correlated, there's the possibility. Has oil got? Let's have a look at oil just on the bigger picture here. Weekly wise, a big expansion move there. Look at the size of that bar last week relatively. But has it got the legs to push through? It starts pushing through, well, we could be on, as I said last week, maybe up to $72 onwards. Let's just go on to the monthly for a minute, that monthly picture. It's still stalling in this monthly 200. If you push through here, well, look, even up to $75 on the moving averages there, and those prior lows sitting around that area as well. So any shove up there could see that occur. And in which case I'd expect the Canadian dollar to be moving down, strengthening itself against the US dollar. That would give us that sort of move down to this previous trend line here. Right, that's pretty much it for me. There's nothing else for now. I'm going to call it a day. Have a great one. Bye for now.